Okay. Hello, and welcome to Own Your Retirement. My name is Albert from Kaizen Financial. If you'd like more information about what you hear during our show today, give us a call at 586-752-7008 or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And while on my website, click on my podcast page to check out our past shows and also to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. All right, as we head into the final stretch of 2025, a lot of people are reflecting on what the past year has brought and what the next one might hold. Now, maybe you've been thinking about, let's say, big life changes, like when to finally step away from the 9 to 5 and start enjoying the retirement you worked so hard for. But deciding when to retire, well, it's a deeply personal choice. And timing can make a big difference in your financial confidence and long term comfort. So, today we're going to talk about a few signs that retiring in 2026 might not be the best move, and why giving yourself just one more year on the job could set you up for a smoother, more secure transition into retirement. I read that some people plan to ease into retirement by cutting back to part time hours. Now, I tried to do that once, and my boss called me showing up late. So, before we get started, let me bring in my co host who swears they've been easing into retirement since the day after high school, Tony Shore. How we been, buddy?
Easing into retirement since the day after high school. Well, yeah, I guess we're all headed there. No matter our age, we're headed for retirement. So,
Yes.
I guess guilty as charged. But seriously, I've really no, I don't feel like I've headed into retirement. I
Okay.
seems like I'm working harder and harder.
Yes, it does.
But you're right. A lot of people are asking that question right now, Albert. When is the right time to retire? Can I
Yeah.
retire next year or the year after that, or do I need to wait another 5 years or a year longer? So this is a good topic for today. But first, Detroit won last week. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, this past weekend. My Vikings, though,
Tough game. Tough game,
my
man.
Vikings did not look good this week, but we beat the Lions the week before.
Yes, you
I
did.
wanted to remind you of
Yes,
that.
you did.
I
By
had
the
to,
way, I will be there for the revenge game at your place
yeah,
when Detroit faces Vikings on Christmas Day. I will be there.
yeah, I
So,
might be there too. I'll have to.
yes,
We'll
we'll
have to
get
meet up at the
together
game.
and yes, see if we
Yeah,
can even out that series right now.
yeah. Maybe a little wagering might have to
That might
happen.
be good.
Yeah, yeah.
We didn't say that on the video
No, no, we're kidding. I'm talking about you're buying the food at the game.
There you
That's
go.
that's
Sounds
a
good to me.
that's a more money than I have if you're going to buy me a meal at the game. That's for
Oh
sure.
yeah, that's up there.
So, yeah, the $10 bottle of water at the football games.
Right.
I mean, it's expensive, but
Believe me, I'm used to
yeah,
it.
yeah, I know. What do you think? I mean, I know that there was some of the facts and figures you're getting are from an article, right? Where's that from?
Yes, we're taking it from a USA Today article that's titled Three Signs You Should Wait Another Year Before Retiring.
Okay. So let's jump into the first sign that retiring in 2026 or soon might not be the best move. And that's if you're not totally comfortable with your
Yeah.
savings, right?
You got it. I mean, everyone comes to me always asking, is there a certain number we need to have and all that? There's no magic number that guarantees you'll have enough money in retirement because everyone's situation is different. Your
Yeah.
lifestyle, your health, where you live, and well, what you want your retirement to look like. It all plays a role. So, but a simple way to check your progress is to estimate how much income you'll need each year. Subtract your expected Social Security benefits and then multiply the difference by 25. That'll give you a good ballpark for how much you should have saved. So let's say, for example, you expect to spend about $60,000 a year in retirement. And Social Security will cover, let's say, 24,000 of that. That leaves $36,000 a year that needs to come from your 401k or IRA. Now multiply that $36,000 by 25, and you're looking at roughly about $900,000 in savings.
Oh, wow. Okay. So if you hit that target, great. But if you're falling a bit short, that might be a sign that you're not quite ready to clock out for good, then, is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
that's right. In fact, it's worth running the numbers to see where you stand. If your nest egg isn't as large as you'd hope, working just one more year, well, it can make a real difference. Not only can you keep contributing to your retirement accounts, but you'll also give your existing savings a little more time to grow. And if you're really far from your goal, let's say, even an extra year or two of saving might not completely close the gap. But here's the good news. Delaying retirement also means you can delay claiming Social Security. So each year you wait beyond your full retirement age increases your benefits by 8% for life. That's a powerful way to help make up for a smaller savings balance.
Yeah, that's a great point, Albert. I mean, even if the numbers aren't exactly where you want them right now, a little patience, a little more time in the workforce can really pay off down the line then. So the next sign that retiring in 2026 might not be ideal is if you're almost eligible for Medicare but not quite there yet.
Ah, yes, that's a
Healthcare.
big one. That's a
Yeah.
big one. Yeah. Healthcare can end up being one of the largest expenses in retirement. And
Yep.
if you retire before you're eligible for Medicare, well, you could face a costly coverage gap. Now, Medicare eligibility typically begins at age 65. So if you'll turn 64 in 2026, you're close, but you've still got a year to bridge that.
And especially after this year, I know health insurance costs have skyrocketed for everybody
Yes.
pretty much across the board. So that can be surprisingly expensive if you're between your employer. A lot of people don't realize their employer's probably covering half of their insurance
Hmm.
costs for
Oh,
health
big time. Oh,
insurance.
yeah.
Yeah, and so without that, and before you get on Medicare, that coverage gap, like you said, that's expensive.
It is. It really can be expensive. In fact, you might be able to stay on your workplace plan through what we call Cobra or purchase your own plan through the marketplace. But both options can be very pricey.
Really
That could
pricey.
mean dipping into your savings earlier than you plan, and that's never a great way to start retirement. Now, Medicare isn't free either, so let's just put that out there. You still have costs like premiums, deductibles, and copays. But in most cases, it's still more affordable than trying to buy a private policy on your own.
Yeah, and I've learned this because of my parents. They're both in
Mhm.
their 80s. They're both in long-term care, but even before that, once they went on Medicare, a lot of people out there, I'm glad you mentioned that, Albert, because a lot of people out there think, oh, once I'm 65, I'll have Medicare, so I don't have to worry about healthcare costs in retirement. It's going to be
Right.
really cheap. It's like, oh, $185 a month and that's it. No, you still have that premium. You'll probably have other premiums. You have
Yes.
drug coverage and
Yes.
copays to pay for. And Medicare doesn't cover dental, vision, or hearing. I know one of the most expensive things my parents have had is dental,
Mhm.
and glasses and vision, not to mention hearing aids. So none of that is covered by Medicare nor long term care. So you're going to spend a lot out of pocket on healthcare in retirement. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
And let's say you're just a year away from that Medicare milestone, 65. Waiting to retire until you're officially eligible can really save you a lot of money and stress, I would say, because right now, private health care to get it on your own is really, really expensive.
It is. No, you're
Yeah.
definitely right, Tony. I mean, that is probably one of the most common retirement age of 65 because of that reason alone for
Yeah.
most people is the
Yep.
health insurance. So if you're near, 65 for next year, that one extra year of work could help you avoid, let's say, a big financial strain and step into retirement, with, let's say, more confidence and health coverage that you can actually count on. That's going to be key.
Yeah. So waiting an extra year or so, you've already touched on how that helps with your savings to be more prepared for retirement and healthcare costs. But this next one that you had on your notes, it's a little more personal. It's when you realize you have no idea what you'll actually do with
Yes,
your time
yes,
in
yes,
retirement.
yes, yes.
A lot of people think, "Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll golf every day, or read all day every
Right.
day," or but you get you'll hit a wall pretty quick if that's your whole
Mhm.
plan for retirement.
Oh yeah, I mean it's true. People often focus on the financial side of, let's say, retirement, but the emotional, mental side is just as important. So having
Yeah.
all that free time, oh, sounds amazing until you realize you don't have a plan for how to fill it because you've been so used to going to work, let's say, for 8 to 10 hours a day,
Yeah.
and so you again might love the idea of not having to report to work every day, but too much downtime can become a problem as well. It's best not to retire until you have at least a general sense of what your days will look like and how you're going to act upon it.
Right. You need a purpose. You need to have a purpose
Yes.
in retirement, a reason to get up every day, have things scheduled. Because after the first few weeks of sleeping in and catching up on shows or books, you might and golfing every day, you might start thinking, now what? Right.
Right. I completely agree. If you can't picture, let's say, quite picture your retirement routine yet, that might be a sign to work another year, basically. Use that time to explore, let's say, new hobbies, volunteer opportunities, or even a side hustle that excites you. Sometimes those part time projects turn into fulfilling second acts. And don't underestimate the social side either. Over the course of a year, you might, well, meet like minded people who share your interests, people you can travel with, garden with, or even play music with. That's big in my group.
Yeah, I like that as well. I would agree with that one. And that's such a good point. I mean, retirement isn't just about stepping away from something, it's about stepping toward something else. It's not an ending, it's a new beginning,
Yes,
right?
bingo, right there, Tony. You hit it. Retirement is one of the biggest transitions you'll ever make, both financially and mentally. So it's not a decision to rush. In fact, if any of these signs sound familiar, well, whether it's your savings, your healthcare timing, or your readiness for that chapter, it might be worth rethinking your plan to retire in 2026 and maybe giving yourself just a little more time. Now, let's push forward, though, with our conversation about strategically holding off on retirement by next considering another article, but this one by Investopedia. It's titled Thinking of Delaying Your Retirement. You're not alone. Most people over 50 are pushing it back.
Ah, yeah, and that's true. I know a lot of people are doing that. In fact, I'm one of those people who, and this is an excuse. Oh, I don't need to plan for retirement. I'm going to just keep working. I'm going to work forever. Well, that doesn't work. I mean,
Correct.
because health and your job might have a different something else to say about it, even if you want to. I want to do this as long as my voice holds out. I'm going to keep working. But for anyone listening who's realizing retirement might be a little further away than they originally planned, they're not alone. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are working a little bit longer, if
Yep.
not because of healthcare costs. Number one, maybe savings, like you mentioned earlier, but because of a lot of reasons, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
some people actually like their jobs. I mean,
Mhm.
it is possible. I love what I do. Of course, I get to talk to you every week, so that's
I love what I
there.
do as well. And spending it with you every Tuesday, I love it.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, in fact, recent surveys show that a lot of adults approaching retirement are actually making the same decision, and that's to work longer than they once expected. And it's not just older workers, even younger generations are starting to think early retirement, well, might not be realistic for them.
Yeah, that's something I've been hearing more and more. People adjusting their expectations and
Mhm.
timelines.
And there are plenty of reasons for that. Someone of why someone might delay the retirement, like let's say health coverage we talked about, lifestyle goals, or just wanting to stay active. But for most adults over 50, it really does come down to savings. Whether they're trying to reach a target number or make up for lost time, staying in the workforce a little longer can help strengthen their financial foundations.
Hmm. So it's not necessarily a setback; it's actually a strategy.
A great way to put it, yes. Delaying retirement, even by a year or two, well, it can give you more options and more confidence when you finally do decide to make that move.
Hmm. Okay, so far on the show today, Albert, you've talked about how and why people might delay retirement, but who's actually doing it out there? I mean, what do the studies and numbers show?
Okay, that's a great question. In fact, the numbers might surprise you. In fact, nearly a quarter of people approaching retirement say they're thinking about delaying it, according to a 2025 survey from F&G Annuities and Life Incorporated. And get this, almost a third of people who are already retired say they're considering unretiring or returning to work.
There you go. That I'll tell you what, that stat should tell you something about, hey, think real hard before you, oh, I'm retiring next year or I'm retiring this year. A third of people right now are going back to work after they've retired. You might want to ask yourself, okay, maybe they didn't have a plan or they need some more savings or
Yep.
healthcare costs were more than they planned. So
Yes.
that's a lot of people thinking about jumping back in.
It is. And here's the great big numbers at among Generation X, who are roughly between ages 45 and 60, Tony, as many as 54% of those who retire early say they're thinking about going back to work. And this pattern shows up in other research too. In fact, a survey from Western and Southern financial groups shared in the article found that the average American expects to retire at age 70. Even though most people want to retire closer to 64, that's a pretty big gap of about 6 years on average. And I can tell you, I'm one of those people that plan to work to 70. Now, for me, I'm in my mid 50s. It's not because I don't have enough saved or I'm worried about, let's say, my healthcare. For me, I love what I do, just like you. And so for me, I already had that game plan, probably 10 years ago, that when I put out what I was going to do, 70 was my number because of what I can do, if I can still do this, obviously,
Sure.
at that age, physically and mentally. But yes, that is my goal as a Generation X.
Oh, Albert, you'll be doing this for a long time if you want to. You're
Yeah.
you're you're a very healthy guy, and that's another part of it. Um, uh, but uh, but right, I mean, there's a gap, and that seems to hold up across generations, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I'll even give you the breakdown here, Tony. Gen Z hopes to retire, let's say around 61, but expects to retire closer to 69.
Hmm.
Millennials say they'd like to retire at 63, but think it would actually be like 71. Gen X expects 70. That's what I said, even though they
That's
prefer
me.
65. Yep. And baby boomers, well, they like to call it a day around 67, but most say it'll be closer to 71 before they can.
Hmm. Yeah, the ones that aren't already retired or haven't gone back to work from
Correct.
retirement, which is happening a lot. So basically, every generation's dreaming, their dream retirement age, I should say, is about 6 to 8 years earlier than reality, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
And well, it just highlights just how much the financial landscape has shifted.
yeah.
Longer lifespans, rising costs, and the uncertainty around Social Security is big, and healthcare all play a part. So, the key takeaways, though, is this: if you're thinking about delaying retirement, you're in good company because you're not going to be alone.
Right. Right. And that's good. It's not a sign of failure, right?
No, no, no,
It's a
no.
reflection of people being thoughtful, realistic, and proactive about their future. And that's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So before we keep going, why don't you let our listeners out there know, Albert, how they can get a hold of you to set up that no charge, no obligation consultation?
Folks, yes, if you're concerned about your retirement target dates or if next year should be your retirement year, please give us a call, 586-752-7008, or visit us online at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen. And just remember, scheduling a consultation only takes a few minutes, and we're always happy to work around your schedule.
All right, that sounds great. Appreciate that. We've covered who's delaying retirement, but now let's talk about why.
That's good. Yeah, for some people, it's less about numbers and more about lifestyle or purpose. In fact, about a third of those who responded to that same F&G survey we referenced earlier said they're delaying retirement or even considering unretiring because they're worried about losing their sense of purpose.
Right. And that's a big concern. I think that makes a lot of sense because after decades of working, it can be hard to suddenly just step away from it because you've got structure, you've got goals, you've got the social connections at your work. All those things come with having a job, and all of a sudden you don't have that. So that is, I would say, a big concern for a lot of people.
There is. Well, and then consider this. Another 42% said they simply enjoy the challenge and mental stimulation that
Yeah.
work provides. And honestly, that's something I hear from clients all the time. People who find meaning in what they do and don't feel ready to give that up just yet. And I have a neighbor who's exactly in that position right now, and a client, and we have been contemplating it for the last 2 years. So ready, everything's all set up, like, and pulled the trigger, but he just didn't have a sense of purpose until now. He finally realizes 2 years later, he's ready.
Yeah. I know a lot of people like that. I mean, not everyone is delaying retirement because they have to. Some just genuinely want to keep working, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is so true. But the biggest reason is still financial. Just so remember that.
Sure.
But more than half of those delaying retirement or returning to work are saying that they're worried about their financial situation. They don't feel like they've saved enough, and then sometimes they want more flexibility, especially in the volatile economy we've had in the last few years.
Yeah, I think that's to be expected because the last few years have reminded everyone how quickly things can change with the markets,
Yes.
inflation, healthcare costs, right?
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
for many, that uncertainty actually makes it worth working just a little bit longer. Every additional paycheck, every contribution, every month of deferred withdrawals, man, can it help strengthen your overall financial position before you step into retirement?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's good to think about all this before you get there,
Oh,
as far
yes.
in advance as possible, and work with a financial professional like yourself. Now, you've covered who's delaying retirement and why, but like most financial decisions, Albert, it's not all one-sided, right? There are pros and cons to think about here.
Yeah. You know what? Delaying retirement or even returning to work after retiring, it can have some real benefits, but it's not the right move for everyone. And what I mean by that, the key is to understand both sides before you decide what's best for your situation.
Okay, give us some of the pros.
All right. Well, first, delayed Social Security benefit. If you keep working and hold off on claiming, your benefit amount grows. In fact, the Social Security Administration increases your benefit for about let's just say 6% from early eligibility to your full retirement, and 8% for every year you delay past your full retirement age to age 70. Second, there is more time to save.
Hmm.
Every year you stay in the workforce, Tony, is another year to contribute to your retirement accounts like your 401ks, 403bs, or your IRAs. And then in 2025, the contribution limits are 23,500 for a 401k, 403, or 457 plan, and $7,000 for an IRA.
Wow. And if you're over 50, you get extra catch-up
Aha.
opportunities on top of those, right?
Yes, in
Yeah.
2025, workers age 50 and older can put an extra $7,500 into a 401k or similar plan. And this one ability becomes limited. But by continuing to work, you maintain that regular paycheck, which gives you more options to handle surprise expenses or emergencies without dipping into your savings too soon.
Yeah. And those are some strong incentives to keep working a bit longer. But like you said, there's another side to it, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Let's talk about a few of the cons. One is the physical mental challenge. As we age, working full time can become tougher, especially in careers that are, let's say, physically demanding, require long hours, or involve all kinds of travel. Another is the difficulty of, well, finding work later in life. If you're trying to change jobs or unretire, age discrimination can be a real barrier. And according to a study by AARP that's cited in the article, more than 2/3 of workers over 50 have either seen or experienced age discrimination in the workplace.
Yikes.
Mhm.
That's not good. And that's a tough stat, but definitely something people need to keep in mind when they're planning, right?
Oh, definitely. And then there are family needs too. Remember that. A 2024 poll from the University of Michigan found that about 8% of grandparents provide daily or near daily care for grandkids, and another 20% help at least once a week. So if your family depends on you in that way, going back to work might limit your ability to help out. And finally, there's the personal side. Many retirees dream about traveling or pursuing hobbies in the early years of retirement when they're younger and healthier. Working longer can delay those plans, and in some cases, those opportunities might not come around again.
Right. It really comes down to priorities. I mean, what's most important to you right now and what you might be giving up or gaining by staying in the workforce a little longer.
Yeah, yes, of course. In fact, there's no one size fits all answer. The best approach is to, well, look at your finances, your goals, and your lifestyle, and make the decision that keeps you both comfortable and fulfilled.
Okay, that brings us to the big question. How does somebody actually decide whether to delay retirement or not?
That is $1 million question, isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
ultimately, whether you delay retirement or even rejoin the workforce, depending on your financial situation, your health, and obviously your interests. So there are plenty of reasons to keep working longer than you once planned. And one of the biggest is, well, simply people are living longer.
Yeah. Yeah, longevity changes the math. I mean, it
Oh
changes how
gosh.
much you're going to need in retirement, how much longer you can work longer, but you're also going to need that to work longer because you're going to live longer in retirement probably. So,
Mhm.
yeah, longevity changes the math.
Big time. If you remember when we first had Social Security back in the 30s, the average person when they received Social Security was only 5 years from 65. That was it to 70. So
Yeah.
now a 2020 report from the U.S. Census Bureau, they come out and shared in the article found that from 1960 to 2017, life expectancy in the U.S. increased by about 10 years from roughly 69.7 to 79.7 years old. And that number is expected to keep rising. Now, while a longer life might mean you need to work longer to sustain your income, or you might want to just to stay active and engaged as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing decision, though, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not just full time work versus full time retirement, right? There are other
Right,
options.
right. Oh my gosh, many retirees find a happy middle ground. Part-time work can be a great way to stay involved with your community, explore new interests, or just keep a little extra income flowing. Let's say you love golf. Maybe you become a golf marshal, a course marshal, or let's say you love animals. Maybe you work part-time at a pet store, or volunteer at a shelter, or you prefer more flexibility. You might freelance, tutor, consult, babysit, or even sell handmade crafts online. Either way, the key is to plan early and be intentional to think about both your emotional needs and your financial goals.
Yeah. Well put. And I think this has been a great show today. A lot of great insight. Anything else before we sign off for the day?
Well, folks, listen, if you're concerned about your retirement target date, should you retire early or delay, please visit my website at www.kaizenfinancialinc.com. That's Kaizen, Kaizen, or call my office at 586-752-7008. We love to help you protect your savings and feel confident about the road ahead and plan for your retirement. Why? So that you can own your retirement.
All right. Thanks, Albert. And thanks, listeners and viewers. Appreciate you. That does it for today's episode of Own Your Retirement with our host, Albert Lalonde.
Bye bye.